Picture this. You work 3 jobs to buy your dream car. You spend 2 years saving every penny, skipping meals, wearing the same clothes until they're threadbare. Finally, you get the keys to that beautiful machine sitting in your driveway. Then one day, you come home from work and it's gone. Not stolen, sold, by your own parents, to fund your brother's European vacation. My name is Madison Parker, and from wherever you're watching this, buckle up. Because the story I'm about to tell you isn't just about a car. It's about the moment I realized that sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones you need protection from. And when that moment comes, you have 2 choices. Stay silent and let them walk all over you, or teach them a lesson they'll never forget. Spoiler alert. I chose option 2. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Let me paint you a picture of the Parker family dynamics, because understanding this is crucial to everything that happened next. We lived in a modest 2-story house in Riverside, California. Nothing fancy, but it was home. My father, Robert Parker, worked as a middle manager at a logistics company. My mother, Linda Parker, was a part-time receptionist at a dental office. Comfortable middle-class life, right? Wrong. See, there were 2 children in the Parker household, but only one that mattered. My younger brother Tyler was what you'd call the golden child. 2 years younger than me, but somehow always the center of every conversation, every decision, every family gathering. Tyler was the athlete, the charmer, the one who could do no wrong even when he was doing everything wrong. Me? I was Madison. The responsible one. The invisible one. The one who got a job at 15 because it builds character, while Tyler got an allowance for simply existing. I worked at a local diner after school, cleaning tables and dealing with rude customers, who left messes bigger than their tips. Every Friday, I'd come home with burns on my hands from the grill and the smell of French fry oil in my hair, while Tyler came home with participation trophies and praise for trying his best. But here's the thing about being invisible. You see everything. You notice patterns that others miss. You watch how your parents' faces light up when one child walks in the room and remain neutral when the other appears. You hear the conversations that stop when you enter, the plans made without you, the future discussions that somehow never include your name. Tyler played varsity basketball, and every game was a family event. Dad would take time off work, Mom would make signs. They'd sit in the front row cheering like their lives depended on it. Win or lose, we'd go to Denny's afterward to celebrate Tyler's amazing performance. When I made honor roll 4 semesters in a row, I got a good job and a pat on the shoulder. When Tyler passed his classes with C's, it was a family celebration. The car situation started when I turned 17. I'd been working at the diner for 2 years by then, and I had a problem. The city bus route to work was unreliable, and I was constantly late because of missed connections. My manager, Mrs. Chen, was understanding but firm. Madison, you're a good worker, but I need someone I can count on to be here on time. Figure out the transportation issue, or I'll have to find someone else. That's when I made the decision that would change everything. I was going to buy a car. Not just any car. I was going to buy the car I'd been dreaming about since I first saw it at Johnson's used auto lot on my way to work. A 2018 Honda Civic, silver, with low mileage and a clean interior that still smelled new. The price tag was $18,500, which might as well have been $1 million to a 17-year-old making minimum wage plus tips. But I had a plan. I calculated that if I worked extra shifts on weekends, picked up catering jobs through the diner, and took on babysitting gigs for neighbors, I could save enough for a down payment in 6 months and qualify for a loan for the rest. It meant no social life, no movies with friends, no new clothes, no eating out. Every penny would go toward that car. I presented this plan to my parents over dinner one night. I had spreadsheets printed out, showing my projected income, expenses, and savings timeline. I'd even researched insurance costs and gas mileage. I was prepared for every question they might ask. A car? Dad looked up from his meatloaf like I'd announced I was joining the circus. Madison, you're 17. You don't need a car. I need it for work, Dad. The bus schedule doesn't line up with my shifts, and I'm going to lose my job if I keep being late. Then find a different job, Mom chimed in, not even looking up from cutting Tyler's meat. Tyler was 15 and perfectly capable of cutting his own food, but Mom still did it for him like he was 5 years old. I like my job. I'm good at it. And I've already figured out how to pay for everything myself. Tyler laughed. Madison thinks she's an adult now. I'm being responsible, I said, keeping my voice steady even though my heart was pounding. I'm planning ahead, saving money, working hard. You're being ridiculous, Dad interrupted. A 17-year-old doesn't need an $18,000 car. If you need transportation, we'll figure something out. But they didn't figure anything out. Weeks passed, and my transportation problem remained unsolved. I continued taking the unreliable bus, continued being late, continued apologizing to Mrs. Chen, who was growing less patient each time. So I took matters into my own hands. I started working every shift I could get. Monday through Friday after school, double shifts on weekends. I took catering jobs that paid cash, babysat for 3 different families in the neighborhood, and even started doing odd jobs for elderly neighbors, grocery shopping, lawn work, organizing closets. Every dollar went into my car fund. The irony wasn't lost on me that while I was working myself to the bone, Tyler was complaining about being bored during his free time. While I was missing out on high school experiences to save money, Tyler was hanging out with friends, going to movies, eating out at restaurants with money from his allowance, an allowance I'd never received, by the way. 6 months later, I had saved $8,000. Not quite enough for the down payment I'd originally planned, but enough to start negotiating. I'd also built a relationship with Mr. Johnson at the auto lot. He'd seen me walk by his lot every day on my way to work, always slowing down to look at that silver Civic. One day he came out to talk to me. "You really like that car, don't you?" he asked with a kind smile. "I'm going to buy it," I told him with the confidence of someone who'd been planning this for months. "I just need a little more time to save up." We worked out a deal. He would hold the car for me for 2 more months if I could put down $5,000 as a good faith deposit. The remaining $13,500 could be financed if I could get a cosigner. He even offered to help me apply for a loan through his preferred lender. There was just one problem. I needed a cosigner. As a 17-year-old with limited credit history, no bank would give me a loan without someone with established credit to back me up. That someone had to be my parents. I waited for the perfect moment to approach them again. It came on a Sunday evening after Tyler had scored 20 points in a basketball game, and we were all in good moods from the victory celebration at Denny's. I had all my paperwork ready, the financing application, proof of my savings, a letter from Mrs. Chen confirming my employment and reliability, even a letter from Mr. Johnson explaining the deal he'd offered me. "I need to ask you something," I said as we sat in the living room. Tyler sprawled across the couch playing video games, Mom and Dad watching TV. I explained the situation calmly and professionally. I showed them my savings account statement, proving I had the down payment ready. I walked them through the loan terms, the monthly payments I'd be responsible for, the insurance I'd already researched and budgeted for. "All I need is a cosigner," I concluded. "I'll make every payment myself. I'll handle all the insurance, maintenance, everything. I just need someone to co-sign the loan application." Dad took the paperwork and actually looked through it this time. Mom glanced over his shoulder, reading the financing terms. For a moment, I thought I'd done it. I thought I'd finally proven that I was responsible enough, prepared enough, adult, enough to make this work. "Madison," Dad said finally, "this is a big responsibility." "I know. I'm ready for it." "What if something happens to your job? What if you can't make the payments?" "Then I'll get another job." or a second job. I'll figure it out. Mom frowned. But if we co-sign, we're responsible if you can't pay. I understand. That's why I've been so careful with the planning. Look at my work history. I've never missed a shift, never been irresponsible with money. Mrs. Chen will vouch for me. Tyler looked up from his game. Why does Madison get a car when I don't? And there it was, the question that changed everything. Tyler, you're only 15, I said. You can't even drive yet. So, I'll be 16 in a few months. If she gets a car, I should get one too. Dad and Mom exchanged one of those looks, the kind parents share when they're having an entire conversation without words. I knew that look. I'd seen it 1,000 times before, and it never ended well for me. Let us think about it, Mom said, which was parent speak for, we're going, to find a reason to say no. But I couldn't wait anymore. Mr. Johnson had been incredibly patient, but he couldn't hold the car forever. Other customers were interested. I was running out of time. The next day, I made a decision that would prove to be both the best and worst choice I could have made. I took my $8,000 in savings and put it down as a deposit on the car. I figured that once my parents saw how serious I was, how much I'd already invested, they'd have to co-sign the loan. What parent would let their child lose $8,000? I was about to find out exactly what kind of parents I had. That evening, I told them what I'd done. I explained that I'd put down the deposit, that I had 48 hours to complete the financing or I'd lose my money, that this was my chance to solve my transportation problem and keep my job. The silence that followed was deafening. Madison, Dad said, slowly, you should have talked to us first. I tried to talk to you. You said you'd think about it. And we're still thinking about it. But putting down a deposit before getting approval was irresponsible. Irresponsible? I felt my voice getting higher, but I couldn't help it. I've been the most responsible person in this family for 2 years. I've worked every day after school, saved every penny, planned every detail. Don't raise your voice at your father, Mom snapped. I'm not raising my voice. I'm trying to explain that I need an answer. The dealership needs the loan application by tomorrow or I lose my deposit. Tyler, still lounging on the couch, added his 2 cents. Maybe you should have thought about that before you spent all your money. That's when I knew. Looking at Tyler's smug face, seeing my parents' disapproving expressions, feeling the weight of 2 years of working myself to exhaustion while watching my brother get everything handed to him, I knew they were going to say no. They were going to let me lose $8,000 just to teach me a lesson about making decisions without their permission. But I also knew something else, something that would become very important later. I knew that my parents had been struggling financially. I'd overheard enough conversations, seen enough bills, noticed enough subtle changes in our lifestyle to understand that money was tighter than they let on. Dad's company had been downsizing, Mom's hours at the dental office had been cut, and Tyler's sports activities were getting more expensive as he advanced to higher levels of competition. What I didn't know yet was just how desperate they were, or how far they'd be willing to go to solve their financial problems, or that the solution they'd come up with involved my car, the car I hadn't even bought yet, but somehow in their minds already belonged to the family. The deadline came and went. My parents refused to co-sign, claiming I was too young and too impulsive to handle such a big responsibility. I lost my deposit. $8,000 gone. 2 years of working myself to exhaustion, skipping meals, wearing thrift store clothes, saying no to every invitation, every opportunity, every chance to be a normal teenager, all for nothing. But that wasn't the end of the story. That was just the beginning. Because sometimes when you lose everything, you discover what you're really made of. And what I was made of was stronger than anyone in my family had ever imagined. The real story was just getting started, preparing and narrating. This story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Losing $8,000 should have broken me. Any normal 17-year-old would have crawled into bed, cried for a week, and given up on the whole car dream. But here's what my parents didn't understand about me. Every time they knocked me down, I came back harder. The morning after I lost my deposit, I sat in my room staring at my empty savings account on my phone screen. $8,000. Gone. 2 years of my life, reduced to an expensive lesson in asking permission. But as I sat there, something shifted inside me. The grief turned to determination. The disappointment transformed into pure, focused energy. I called Mrs. Chen and asked for more shifts. I called every catering company in Riverside and offered my services. I reached out to neighbors, family friends, anyone who might need odd jobs done. If my parents thought losing that money would teach me to be more realistic, they were about to learn just how unrealistic I could be. Within 2 weeks, I had constructed what I now call Operation Second Chance. I was working at the diner. 6 days a week, had picked up weekend catering gigs with 3 different companies, was babysitting for 5 families, and had started a small side business doing homework help for middle school kids in the neighborhood. I was making more money than I'd ever made in my life. But this time, I wasn't just saving for a car. I was saving for independence. See, losing that deposit had taught me something crucial. As long as I lived under my parents' roof, as long as I needed their signatures on anything, I was at their mercy. They could sabotage my dreams with a simple no, and there was nothing I could do about it. So I started planning for something bigger than a car. I started planning my escape. The why. Homework tutoring business was my stroke of genius. I charged $15 an hour to help kids with math, science, and English. Word spread quickly through the neighborhood, and soon I had a waiting list. Parents loved me because I was reliable, patient, and actually helped their kids improve their grades. Kids loved me because I made learning fun and didn't make them feel stupid when they struggled. Within a month, I was tutoring 12 different kids and making an extra $300 a week just from that. Combined with my other jobs, I was pulling in nearly $600 a week. For a 17-year-old, that was serious money. But the real game changer came when Mrs. Rodriguez, whose daughter Sophia I was tutoring, made me an offer I couldn't refuse. "Madison," she said one evening as I was packing up my materials, "you're incredible with Sophia. Her grades have improved dramatically, and more importantly, she actually enjoys studying now. I have a proposition for you." Mrs. Rodriguez worked as an executive assistant at a major tech company downtown. She explained that many of her colleagues were struggling with the same problem. Their kids needed academic support, but the tutoring centers were expensive and impersonal. "What if I helped you set up a proper tutoring service? I could connect you with families who would pay premium rates for quality help. We're talking $25, $30 an hour, minimum 3-hour commitments." I nearly choked on my water. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious. These are busy professionals who value their time and their children's education. They'd rather pay well for someone they can trust than waste time with cheaper alternatives that don't deliver results." Within 2 weeks, Mrs. Rodriguez had connected me with 8 families. These weren't just any families. These were tech executives, doctors, lawyers, people who drove luxury cars and lived in houses that could fit 3 of mine inside them. And they were willing to pay me $30 an hour to help their kids with homework. Suddenly, I was making more money per week than my mother made at her part-time job. I was 17 years old, still in high school, and I was out-earning an adult with 20 years of work experience. But here's where the story gets interesting. As my income grew, my family's attitude toward money became more complicated. Tyler started making comments about how I was always working and missing out on being a teenager. Mom began asking pointed questions about how much I was making and whether I was saving appropriately. Dad started suggesting that maybe I should contribute to household expenses since I was doing so well. "Madison," he said one evening over dinner, "since you're making good money now, maybe it's time you started paying for your own cell phone bill and car insurance when you eventually get a car." "I already planned to pay for those things," I said. "That's why I calculated them into my budget from the beginning." "Well, maybe you could also help out with groceries and utilities. You use electricity and water, too." I stared at him. "Are you asking me to pay rent?" "I'm asking you to contribute to the household you live in. It's only fair." Tyler, of course, was exempt from any such expectations. His only job was being a student and a basketball player. His only contribution to the household was bringing home participation trophies and eating us out of house and home. But I agreed to contribute $200 a month for household expenses. Not because I thought it was fair, but because I was playing a longer game. I needed my parents to see me as financially responsible and independent. I needed them to understand that I wasn't just some kid with a part-time job. I was a young adult with a legitimate income and serious financial goals. 3 months after losing my first deposit, I had saved $12,000. This time I had a different strategy. I researched every financing option available to teenagers. I discovered that some credit unions offered special programs for young adults with steady income and no credit history. I found 3 different lenders who would work with me if I could prove consistent income for 6 months and put down a larger down payment. I also discovered something interesting. As an emancipated minor, I wouldn't need a co-signer at all. Emancipation was a legal process that would essentially declare me an adult in the eyes of the law, giving me the right to sign contracts, apply for loans, and make major decisions without parental consent. The requirements for emancipation in California were strict but not impossible. I needed to prove I could financially support myself, had a stable living situation, and that emancipation was in my best interest. With my current income, I was already earning more than enough to support myself. The living situation was trickier, but Mrs. Rodriguez had mentioned that her mother-in-law had a small guest house she'd been thinking about renting to a responsible young person. I spent weeks researching the process, consulting with a legal aid attorney, and preparing my case. The more I learned, the more convinced I became that this was my path forward. Emancipation would give me the freedom to make my own decisions, pursue my own goals, and never again be held back by parents who saw my ambition as a threat to their control. But I decided to give my family one more chance, one final opportunity to support my goals and treat me like the capable, hardworking person I'd proven myself to be. I approached them with a new car plan. This time, I had $12,000 for a down payment, 3 pre-approval letters from lenders, and a detailed financial plan showing how I'd handle every aspect of car ownership. I'd even found a different car, a 2017 Toyota Corolla that was more practical and affordable than the Civic I'd originally wanted. "I know the last time didn't work out," I began carefully, "but I've learned from that experience. I have a larger down payment now, multiple financing options, and I've proven that my income is stable and growing." I laid out all my documentation like a professional presentation. Pay stubs from multiple jobs, bank statements showing consistent savings, letters of recommendation from employers, even a letter from Mrs. Rodriguez explaining how my tutoring business had grown and praising my reliability and professionalism. Dad looked through the paperwork with what I hoped was genuine interest. Mom asked a few questions about the car's reliability and safety features. For a moment, I thought this might actually work. Then Tyler walked into the room, fresh from basketball practice, and everything changed. "What's all this?" he asked, dropping his sweaty gym bag right on top of my carefully organized documents. "Madison's trying to buy a car again," Mom explained. Tyler picked up one of my pay stubs and whistled. "Wow, Madison, you're making bank. Hey, since you're rolling in cash, Think you could spot me some money for the team's trip to San Diego next month? How much? I asked, though I was already dreading the answer. Just $300. It's for the hotel and food. Mom and Dad said they can't afford it right now. But since you're making so much money, I looked at my parents. You told him I'd pay for his trip? We didn't tell him anything, Dad said quickly. But Tyler has a point. You are doing well financially, and this is a family. Sometimes we help each other out. I've been helping out. I pay $200 a month in household expenses. This is different, Mom said. This is about supporting your brother's opportunities. What about supporting my opportunities? Like getting reliable transportation so I can keep the jobs that are paying. For Tyler's opportunities? The room went quiet. Tyler was still holding my pay stub, studying it like it was a treasure map. Mom and Dad exchanged another one of those looks. Madison, Dad said finally, we'll consider co-signing for your car loan if you help Tyler with his trip expenses. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. You're making my car conditional on paying for Tyler's vacation? It's not a vacation. It's a basketball tournament, Tyler protested. It's 3 days in San Diego staying at a beach resort. It's a vacation. Mom sighed. Madison, you're being selfish. Tyler works hard at basketball. He deserves this opportunity. And I work hard at 3 different jobs. Don't I deserve opportunities? 2? You're already getting opportunities. Look how much money you're making. Money I'm making specifically to buy a car that you won't let me buy unless I fund Tyler's beach weekend? Dad stood up, signaling the end of the discussion. Think about it, Madison. Family comes first. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, finally understanding the game being played. My parents didn't see my success as something to be proud of or supported. They saw it as a resource to be tapped for Tyler's benefit. They didn't want me to succeed. They wanted me to succeed just enough to subsidize the golden child's dreams. The next morning, I made 2 phone calls that would change everything. The first was to Mrs. Rodriguez's mother-in-law, arranging to look at the guest house. The second was to the legal aid attorney, scheduling an appointment to discuss emancipation proceedings. I was done asking for permission. I was done being held hostage by people who would never see my worth. I was done funding other people's dreams while mine were held for ransom. It was time to build my own family, one that would support my ambitions instead of exploiting them. But first, I had a decision to make about Tyler's trip. And that decision would set the stage for everything that came next. I decided to pay for it, not because I wanted to, but because I was starting to think several steps ahead. Sometimes to win the war, you have to lose a few battles strategically. Tyler's $300 vacation was about to become the most expensive lesson my family would ever receive. They just didn't know it yet. 3 weeks after I paid for Tyler's San Diego basketball trip, something unexpected happened. My parents actually followed through on their promise to co-sign my car loan. I was honestly shocked. After years of broken promises and moved goalposts, I had prepared myself for another excuse, another delay, another reason why I wasn't quite ready for such a big responsibility. But Dad came home from work on a Thursday evening with a resigned expression and a surprising announcement. Madison, get your paperwork together. We'll go to the dealership this weekend and get you that car. I stared at him, waiting for the catch. There was always a catch. Really? Really? You've proven you can handle the financial responsibility, and you did help Tyler with his trip. A deal's a deal. Mom nodded from the kitchen, though she looked less enthusiastic than Dad sounded. Just remember, we're trusting you with this. Don't make us regret it. Tyler looked up from his phone, confused. Wait, Madison's actually getting a car? She's getting a car, Dad confirmed. For the first time in months, Tyler looked genuinely bothered by something that didn't directly affect him. That's not fair. I'll be 16 in 2 months. Shouldn't I get a car too? You'll get a car when... You can pay for one yourself like Madison did, Mom said, though her tone suggested she didn't really mean it. That Saturday, I found myself sitting in the financing office at Riverside Honda, watching my father sign his name on a co-signer agreement. It felt surreal. After all the setbacks, all the hoops I'd jumped through, all the extra jobs and sacrificed weekends, it was actually happening. The car I ended up buying wasn't the silver Civic I'd originally dreamed about, or even the practical Corolla I'd researched. It was a 2016 Honda Accord, certified pre-owned midnight blue with leather seats and every safety feature imaginable. The dealer had offered me an incredible deal because it had been on the lot for months and they needed to move inventory. "This is actually a better car than what you were looking at before," the salesman explained. "More space, better safety, ratings, and the maintenance history is perfect. Previous owner was a retiree who barely drove it." The monthly payments were within my budget. The down payment cleared out exactly half of my savings, and the car was absolutely beautiful. As I signed my name on page after page of documents, I felt something I'd never experienced before. Pride. Not just in the car, but in everything I'd accomplished to get here. "Congratulations, Miss Parker," the salesman said, handing me the keys. "Enjoy your new car." I walked out to the parking lot in a daze, remote in hand, looking for my car among the rows of vehicles. When I pressed the unlock button and saw the lights flash on the midnight blue Accord, I actually started crying. Happy tears, for once. Dad drove my new car home while I followed in his truck with Mom, grinning like an idiot the entire way. When we pulled into our driveway, I just sat there for a moment, staring at my car parked in front of our house. My car, that I had bought, with money I had earned. "Well," Dad said as we all stood admiring the vehicle, "you did it. I have to admit, Madison, I didn't think you'd stick with it this long." "I told you I would. You did, and you proved us wrong." Tyler came out of the house to inspect the car, running his hands along the hood with barely concealed envy. "This is actually really nice," he admitted grudgingly. "Way nicer than I expected." "Thanks, I think. Can I drive it sometime?" "You don't even have your license yet." "I have my permit. I could practice in it." I looked at Tyler's hopeful face, then at my parents who were watching this exchange with interest. "We'll see," I said, which was teenager speak for absolutely not. But I don't want to start a fight right now. The first month of car ownership was everything I'd dreamed it would be. No more unreliable buses, no more being late to work, no more turning down opportunities because I couldn't get there. My schedule became exponentially more flexible, which meant I could take on even more tutoring clients and catering gigs. I was driving to work on a Tuesday morning, listening to music and feeling grateful for my life, when Mrs. Chen pulled me aside during my break. "Madison, I need to talk to you about something important." My heart sank. Had I done something wrong? Was she cutting my hours? "I've been thinking about this for weeks," she continued, "and I've decided to offer you the assistant manager position." I blinked. "What?" "You've been here longer than anyone except me. You know the systems, the customers love you, and you're more reliable than employees twice your age. The position comes with a $3 raise per hour, plus you'd be eligible for quarterly bonuses based on restaurant performance." I did quick math in my head. A $3 raise on my current hours would mean an extra $400 a month, plus bonuses, plus I could continue my tutoring business and catering work. "There's one catch," Mrs. Chen added. "You'd need to be available to close, most nights, which means staying until 11 p.m. I know you're still in school, so I wanted to check if that would work with your schedule. My classes ended at 3:15 p.m. I could easily work from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. and still get enough sleep for school. When would this start? Next week, if you want it. I wanted to jump up and down, but I managed to keep my composure. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for trusting me with this. You've earned it, Madison. More than earned it. That evening, I announced my promotion at dinner, expecting my family to be proud of my continued success. The reaction was, "Complicated?" "Assistant manager?" Mom said. "Madison, you're only 17. Don't you think you should focus more on school? My grades are fine. I have a 3.8 GPA. But you're always working, Tyler added. When do you hang out with friends? When do you do normal teenager stuff? I looked around the table, confused by this sudden concern for my social life. I like working. I like earning money and building my resume. There's more to life than money, Dad said. This from the man who had demanded I pay household expenses and fund Tyler's basketball trip. I know that, but having money gives me options. Independence. You're still living at home, Mom pointed out. You're not independent. Yet, I said, and immediately regretted it when I saw their expressions change. What does that mean? Dad asked. Nothing. I just meant eventually I'll be independent. Like all kids grow up and become independent. But the damage was done. I could see the wheels turning in their heads, the realization that I was making enough money to actually leave if I wanted to. That I was no longer the financially dependent child they could control through threats of withholding support. Tyler, surprisingly, was the one who verbalized what they were all thinking. Madison, you're not going to move out, are you? I mean, you just got your car. Why would you need to leave? I'm not planning to move out anytime soon, I said. Which was technically true. My emancipation proceedings were still in the research phase, and I wanted to finish high school before making any major life changes. But that night, as I lay in bed thinking about the promotion and the extra money I'd be making, I realized something important. I was no longer dependent on my family's approval or support. I had my own car, my own income, and soon I'd have even more financial stability. For the first time in my life, I had options. The next few weeks settled into a comfortable routine. I'd drive to school in my beautiful Accord, then head straight to work where I was learning management skills and building my savings account back up. My tutoring business continued to grow, and the combination of all my income sources meant I was making more money than ever. I was also building relationships with people who saw my value. Mrs. Chen started consulting with me on scheduling and inventory decisions. The families I tutored treated me like a professional, often asking my advice about their children's academic goals and college preparation. Mrs. Rodriguez had even started introducing me to her colleagues as an amazing young entrepreneur. At home, things were different. My parents seemed simultaneously proud of my success and resentful of my independence. They'd brag about my achievements to their friends, but then make subtle comments about how I was growing up too fast or missing out on being a kid. Tyler's attitude toward me had shifted too. The sibling rivalry was still there, but it was mixed with something that looked almost like respect. He'd started asking me for advice about his grades and even requested help with his college prep, though he was still 2 years away from graduation. Madison, he said one evening as I was getting ready for work, do you think I should get a job? I looked at him, surprised. Tyler had never shown any interest in working before. Why? I don't know. You seem to really have your life together. Maybe I should start earning my own money too. It's a lot of work, I warned him. And you'd have to give up some social time, and basketball would have to work around your schedule. Yeah, but look what you have to show for it. Your own car, your own money, your own life. Mom and Dad can't really tell you what to do anymore because you don't need them for anything. That was an interesting observation from my usually oblivious brother. Is that what you want? To not need them for anything? He was quiet for a moment. I don't know. Maybe. It just seems like you're free in a way that I'm not. I thought about that conversation during my drive to work. Tyler was right. I was free in a way that he wasn't, but I'd paid a high price for that freedom. Years of working when other kids were playing, saving when they were spending, planning when they were living in the moment. But as I pulled into the restaurant parking lot and saw Mrs. Chen wave at me through the window, as I thought about my growing bank account and the respect I'd earned from adults in my community, I knew it had been worth it. What I didn't know was that my freedom was about to be tested in ways I couldn't imagine. That all the independence I'd fought so hard to build was about to be threatened by the very people who were supposed to protect it. The first sign of trouble came 3 weeks later, on a seemingly ordinary Thursday evening. I had just gotten home from work, tired but satisfied after a particularly busy night at the restaurant. I parked my car in the driveway and noticed Tyler's basketball bag and cleats scattered on the front porch, which meant he'd had practice, and was probably inside demolishing whatever leftovers were in the refrigerator. I walked into the house expecting the usual scene. Tyler sprawled on the couch, Mom cleaning up after dinner, Dad watching the news. Instead, I found all three of them sitting at the kitchen table, papers spread out between them, wearing expressions I'd never seen before. Mom looked up when I entered, her face tight with worry. Dad was holding what looked like bills or statements, his jaw clenched. Tyler was staring at his phone, but his usual relaxed posture was replaced with tension. "Madison," Dad said, "we need to talk." The tone of his voice made my stomach drop. This wasn't about household rules or curfews. This was something bigger. "What's wrong?" "Sit down." I remained standing. "Just tell me what's happening." Dad sighed and looked down at the papers in his hands. "I lost my job today." The words hit me like a physical blow. Dad had worked at the logistics company for 12 years. He wasn't just an employee, he was practically part of the furniture there. What happened? Company-wide layoffs. They eliminated my entire department. His voice was steady, but I could see the devastation in his eyes. Effective immediately. Mom reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "We'll figure this out. It's just temporary." "Is it?" Dad looked at the papers again. "I'm 52 years old, Madison. Companies aren't exactly fighting over middle managers my age." Tyler spoke up for the first time. "What does this mean for us?" "It means we need to be smart about money for a while," Mom said. "Cut back on unnecessary expenses. Stick to basics until Dad finds something new." I looked around the table at my family, processing this information. Dad losing his job was devastating, but we'd get through it. I was making good money, Mom still had her part-time position, and Dad would find something else eventually. "How can I help?" I asked. Dad looked up at me, and something in his expression made me uneasy. "Actually, Madison, that's what we wanted to talk to you about. And that's when I learned that sometimes the people you're willing to help are the same people planning to help themselves to everything you've built. We need you to sell your car." The words hung in the air like smoke from a house fire. I stared at Dad, certain I'd misheard him. "Excuse me?" "Your car, Madison. We need you to sell it and give us the money to help cover expenses while I look." "For a new job?" I felt the world tilt sideways. "You want me to sell my car? The car I worked 2 years to buy? The car you co-signed for 3 weeks ago?" Mom leaned forward, her voice taking on that patronizing tone she used when she thought she was being reasonable. "Madison, honey, we're family. When one of us is struggling, we all help out. You've been making good money, and the car is your most valuable asset." "It's not an asset, it's my transportation. I need it to get to work, to make the money you're asking me to give you." Tyler shifted uncomfortably in his seat. For once, even he seemed to realize this was crossing a line. Dad's voice got sharper. "Madison, I've been supporting this family for 18 years. I've put food on the table, kept a roof over your head, and yes, I co-signed for your car when you asked me to. Now I need you to step up and support the family." "I already support the family. I pay $200 a month in household expenses. I paid for Tyler's basketball trip. I buy my own clothes, my own school supplies, my own everything." "This is different," Mom said. "This is an emergency. An emergency that requires me to give up the one thing I've worked hardest for?" Dad slammed his hand on the table, making everyone jump. "Yes, that's exactly what it requires. You think you're some kind of independent adult because you have a job and a car, But you're still 17 years old living in my house. And right now, my house needs that money more than you need that car. I stared at him, seeing a side of my father I'd never witnessed before, desperate, angry, and completely willing to sacrifice my future for his immediate comfort. How much money are we talking about? I asked quietly. The car's worth about $15,000, Dad said. That would cover our mortgage and essential expenses for 4 months while I find new employment. And how exactly am I supposed to get to work? Without a car? You managed before, Mom said with a shrug. The bus, rides from friends, we'll figure something out. I managed before by being constantly late and almost losing my job. The job that's paying for your mortgage assistance. Tyler finally spoke up. Maybe this isn't such a good idea. I mean, Madison needs her car for work. Dad turned on him with surprising viciousness. Tyler, this doesn't concern you. And before you start feeling too sorry for your sister, remember that her sacrifice is protecting your future too. Your college fund, your opportunities. What college fund? I asked. You mean the college fund I've been building for myself through work? Because I don't remember you ever starting one for me. Don't be smart with me, Madison. I'm not being smart. I'm being realistic. You want me to sell my car, give you the money, go back to unreliable transportation, risk my job, and trust that somehow this all works out in my favor. How exactly does that make sense? Mom sighed dramatically. Madison, you're being selfish. We raised you, fed you, housed you for 17 years. Don't you think you owe us something? And there it was. The guilt card. The emotional manipulation they'd been building toward this entire conversation. I owe you something? I've been paying household expenses for months. I paid for Tyler's trip. I buy my own necessities. I haven't asked you for money in over 2 years. What exactly do I owe you? You owe us gratitude, Dad said coldly. You owe us respect. You owe us support when we need it. The way you've supported me, by fighting me every step of the way when I wanted to better my situation, by making me beg for your co-signature on a loan for a car I was paying for myself? We co-signed for that car, Mom said, which means we're legally responsible for it. If you can't make payments. Are you suggesting I can't make payments? We're saying that if you lose your job because Dad lost his job and we can't make ends meet, then yes, you might not be able to make payments. I stared at her, finally understanding the game being played. They weren't asking me to sell my car, to help the family. They were threatening to sabotage my ability to keep my car unless I voluntarily gave it up. So this isn't really a request, is it? This is an ultimatum. Dad's silence was all the confirmation I needed. Tyler looked between our parents and me, clearly uncomfortable with the direction this was heading. Mom, Dad, maybe there's another way. Maybe Madison could just help with some expenses without selling the car. Tyler, stay out of this, Mom snapped. No, actually, Tyler has a point, I said. I could increase my household contribution. I could pick up more shifts, more tutoring clients. I could help without destroying my ability to keep helping. It's not enough, Dad said flatly. We need a substantial amount of money right now, not a small increase in monthly contributions. How substantial? All of it, Madison. We need all the money from selling your car. I felt something cold and final settle in my chest. And what do I get in return? You get the satisfaction of helping your family through a difficult time. And when you find a new job, when the crisis is over, do I get my car back? Do you buy me a replacement? The silence stretched for 30 seconds. Then Mom cleared her throat. Madison, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Which meant, no, I would never see that money again, never get a replacement car, never be compensated for the sacrifice they were demanding I make. What if I say no? Dad's expression hardened. Then you'll find out what happens when someone bites the hand that feeds them. What does that mean? It means you can find somewhere else to live. It means you can pay for your own cell phone, your own car insurance, your own health insurance. It means you can learn what real independence costs. Mom nodded in agreement. Madison, we're not trying to be harsh, but you can't have it both ways. You can't live like you're independent while still depending on us for the basics. I looked around the table at my family. Tyler was staring at his hands, clearly wanting to be anywhere else. Mom was wearing her disappointed but firm expression, the one she used when she thought she was teaching me a valuable lesson. Dad was watching me with cold eyes, waiting for me to cave under the pressure. And suddenly, I understood something that should have been obvious all along. This wasn't about Dad's job loss. This wasn't about family emergencies or pulling together in hard times. This was about control. My success had shifted the power dynamic in our household. I was no longer the dependent child who needed their approval and support to survive. I had my own income, my own transportation, my own growing independence. And that threatened them. They weren't asking me to help the family. They were asking me to sabotage myself to restore their control over me. How long do I have to decide? I asked. We need an answer by tomorrow morning, Dad said. I've already talked to a dealer about what we could get for the car. He'd already contacted a dealer, before even discussing it with me. They'd made this decision without me and were just informing me of what was going to happen. Fine, I said, standing up from the table. I'll give you an answer tomorrow morning. I walked to my room and closed the door, my mind racing. They thought they had me cornered. They thought I had no choice but to surrender my car and accept whatever scraps of independence they were willing to allow me. They were wrong. I pulled out my phone and started making calls. The first was to Mrs. Rodriguez's mother-in-law about the guest house. The second was to the legal aid attorney about expediting my emancipation paperwork. The third was to Mrs. Chen to explain that I might need some flexibility in my schedule over the next few weeks. Then I opened my laptop and began researching something I'd been thinking about for months, but had never seriously pursued. Early. Graduation. If I could test out of my remaining high school requirements and graduate early, I could remove one of the main arguments my parents had for controlling my life. By midnight, I had a plan. It wasn't pretty, and it wasn't going to be easy, but it was mine. The next morning, I came downstairs to find my parents and Tyler eating breakfast, all of them watching me expectantly. Well? Dad asked. I've made my decision, I said, pouring myself a glass of orange juice and sitting down at the table. And? I'm not selling my car. Dad's face immediately darkened. Madison. But, I continued, I understand that you're facing financial difficulties, and I want to help. So instead of selling my car, I'm going to move out. The silence that followed was deafening. Mom was the first to speak. Move out? Madison, you're 17. I'm aware. I've already spoken with a lawyer about emancipation, and I've found a place to live. I'll be removing the burden of my expenses from your household, which should help with your budget. Tyler looked genuinely shocked. Madison, you can't just move out. You're still in high school. I'm testing out of high school. I have enough. Credits to graduate early if I pass the exit exams. Dad leaned back in his chair, studying me with new eyes. You think you have this all figured out, don't you? I think I have options you didn't consider when you tried to back me into a corner. Madison, Mom said, her voice taking on a pleading tone. You're being rash. You're making decisions based on emotion instead of logic. I'm making decisions based on self-preservation. You just told me that if I don't sell my car and give you the money, you'll kick me out anyway. I'm just choosing to leave on my own terms instead of yours. We didn't say we'd kick you out, Dad protested. You said, I could find somewhere else to live if I didn't like your terms. Well, I found somewhere else to live. Tyler set down his spoon. So you're just leaving? Just like that? Just like that. What I didn't tell them was that leaving wasn't the end of my plan. It was just the beginning, because they'd taught me something valuable about family dynamics and power. And I was about to use that education in ways they never could have imagined. But first, I had to survive the next few hours, during which my parents were going to discover just how serious I was about my independence, and they were going to hate every minute of it. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind of paperwork, phone calls, and careful planning. My parents had clearly expected me to back down once I realized the reality of moving out at 17. Instead, they watched in growing alarm as I systematically dismantled every argument they'd prepared about why I couldn't survive on my own. The first victory came from Mrs. Rodriguez's mother-in-law, Elena Vasquez, the guest house behind her main. Property was perfect, a tiny one-bedroom apartment with its own entrance, kitchenette, and bathroom. More importantly, Mrs. Vasquez was impressed by my work ethic and financial stability. "I've been looking for a responsible tenant for months," she told me as we walked through the space. "Most young people want to party and cause trouble. You want to work and study. That's exactly what I need." The rent was $800 a month, utilities included, which was well within my budget. Mrs. Vasquez even agreed to provide a letter confirming stable housing for my emancipation paperwork. The legal aid attorney, Jennifer Kim, was equally encouraging about my case. "Madison, you're probably the most prepared 17-year-old I've ever worked with for emancipation proceedings. You have stable income, stable housing, you're academically successful, and you can clearly demonstrate that emancipation is in your best interest. How long will the process take? If we file this week and everything goes smoothly, you could have your hearing within a month. Given your documentation and circumstances, I'm confident the court will approve it. The early graduation process was more complicated but still achievable." I met with my guidance counselor, Mrs. Patterson, who reviewed my transcript and credit requirements. "You need 4 more credits to graduate," she explained. "Normally, that would be 2 more semesters. But if you're willing to take the California high school proficiency examination, you could potentially graduate in January instead of June. What would I need to do? Study intensively for the next month, take the exam in December, and if you pass, you'd receive your diploma equivalent. It's challenging, but based on your academic record, I think you could handle it." I left that meeting with study materials and a test date, December 15th. If I passed, I'd be a high school graduate before my 18th birthday. Meanwhile, at home, the atmosphere had become arctic. My parents were oscillating between anger at my defiance and panic as they realized I was serious about leaving. They'd started making pointed comments about how I was abandoning the family and how I'd regret this decision. Tyler's reaction was the most surprising. Instead of taking our parents' side, he'd started asking me practical questions about my plans. "So you're really doing this? Moving out and everything?" "I really am. But what if something goes wrong? What if you can't make enough money or you get sick or something?" I looked at my brother, really looked at him, and realized he wasn't asking out of concern for our parents' feelings. He was asking because he was genuinely worried about me. "Tyler, I've been essentially supporting myself for 2 years already. The only difference is now I'll be doing it honestly instead of pretending we're a happy family." "Are you mad at me too? For all the stuff with the basketball trip and everything?" I considered the question carefully. "I'm not mad at you for being their favorite. You didn't choose that. But I am disappointed that you never stood up for me when they were treating me unfairly." He was quiet for a moment. "I didn't really notice how bad it was until recently. I guess I was just focused on my own stuff." "That's exactly the problem, Tyler. You get to focus on your own stuff because I've been handling everything else." "What can I do to help?" That surprised me. "Help with what?" "I don't know. This whole situation. Mom and Dad are freaking out. You're leaving. Everything's falling apart." "Tyler, the only way you can help is by starting to take responsibility for yourself. Get a job, pay for your own expenses, stop expecting other people to fund your life. but I'm only 15. I was working at 15. Age isn't an excuse. The I. Conversation was interrupted by Dad calling us both into the living room. When we arrived, I found both parents sitting on the couch with serious expressions and a stack of papers between them. "Madison," Dad began, "we've been thinking about everything that's happened, and we want to propose a compromise." I remained standing while Tyler sat in the armchair across from them. "I'm listening. Instead of selling your car, what if you moved back to your original household contribution of $200 a month, plus an additional $300 to help with the current emergency? That's $500 total, which is substantial help without requiring you to give up your transportation." I did quick math. "For how long?" "Until I find steady employment. Probably 3 to 4 months. And then what?" "Then we go back to the original arrangement, which means I continue paying household expenses indefinitely while Tyler contributes nothing." Mom shifted uncomfortably. "Madison, you're making significantly more money than Tyler could at his age. Because I've been working for 3 years. He could start building his income too. Tyler needs to focus on school and basketball. And I don't need to focus on school?" Dad sighed. "Madison, we're trying to find a solution that works for everyone. Everyone except me. Your solution requires me to give up $300 a month in savings, continue subsidizing a household where I'm treated like a second-class citizen, and abandon my plans for independence." "Independence isn't everything," Mom said softly. "Family matters, too." "Family does matter. That's why it's so disappointing that mine has been treating me like an ATM instead of a daughter." The room went silent. Tyler was staring at his hands again, clearly uncomfortable with the tension. "Madison," Dad said finally, "if you leave this house, don't expect to come back when things get difficult." "I wouldn't dream of it. And don't. Expect us to help you when you realize how hard it is to make it on your own." "I've been making it on my own. You've just been taking credit for my success." That evening, I started packing. Not everything. I didn't want to create unnecessary drama. Just the essentials I'd need for the first few weeks in my new place. Clothes, personal items, school materials, and my laptop. Tyler knocked on my door around 10 p.m. "Can I come in?" "Sure." He sat on my bed and watched me fold clothes into a duffel bag. "This is really happening, isn't it?" "It's really happening. Mom's been crying. She thinks you hate us." I stopped packing and looked at him. "Tyler, I don't hate you. Any of you. I'm just tired of being taken for granted." "What if they apologize? What if they say they're sorry and things can go back to normal?" Normal was me working myself to exhaustion while being treated like I didn't matter. I don't want to go back to normal. But we're family. Being family doesn't mean accepting abuse, Tyler. It doesn't mean sacrificing your future so other people can avoid responsibility. He was quiet for several minutes, just watching me pack. Then he said something that caught me completely off. "Guard, I want to come with you." I stopped mid-fold. "What?" "Not now, obviously. I'm too young and I don't have any money saved. But maybe in a year or two, when I'm older. I want to learn how to be independent like you." "Tyler, I've been thinking about what you said, about me not taking responsibility for myself. You're right. I've been letting Mom and Dad treat me like a little kid because it was easier than growing up. Growing up is hard. Yeah, but being dependent on people who might demand you sell your car is harder." I sat down next to him on the bed. "If you're serious about this, you need to start now. Get a job, save money, learn how to manage your own life. Don't wait until you're desperate. Will you help me figure it out?" "Tyler, I'm going to be pretty busy getting my own life sorted out." "I know. But maybe we could stay in touch? Maybe you could give me advice sometimes." I looked at my little brother. Not so little anymore, I realized, and saw something I'd never noticed before. He was scared, not just about me leaving, but about what that meant for his own future. "Yeah," I said. I can do that. The next morning, I loaded my car with my belongings and prepared to drive to my new home. My parents stood in the driveway watching, Mom with tears in her eyes, Dad with his arms crossed and his jaw set. "Madison," Mom called as I closed my trunk. "You don't have to do this. We can work things out." We tried to work things out. You wanted me to sell my car and give you the money. We could find another solution. The solution is for me to build my own life where my success isn't seen as a threat to be controlled. Dad stepped forward. "You think you know everything, but you're about to learn some hard lessons about the real world." I've been living in the real world for 3 years. The difference is now I'm being honest about it. Tyler came out of the house with something in his hand, a small wrapped package. "I wanted to give you this," he said, handing it to me. I unwrapped it to find a keychain with a small compass charm. "Tyler, so you always know which direction you're going," he said with a shy smile. I hugged him, probably the first real hug we'd shared in years. "Thank you." As I got into my car and started the engine, I felt a mixture of sadness and relief. Sadness for the family relationships that could have been. Relief for the independence I was finally claiming. But as I drove away from the house where I'd spent 17 years learning to be invisible, I had no idea that my parents had one more betrayal planned. One final attempt to force me back under their control, and when I discovered what they'd done, the gloves would come off completely. The war was just beginning. 2 weeks into my new life, I was thriving. The guest house was perfect, my emancipation paperwork was progressing smoothly, and I was studying intensively for my early graduation exam. Mrs. Chen had been incredibly supportive, even giving me a small raise when she learned about my situation. "Madison, what you're doing takes real courage," she told me. "I came to this country when I was 19 with nothing but determination. I recognize that same spirit in you." My tutoring business was also expanding. Mrs. Rodriguez had introduced me to even more families, and I was now working with 15 different students. The extra income meant I was not just surviving on my own. I was building a substantial savings account. Everything was going perfectly, until I came home from work one Tuesday evening to find a certified letter waiting for me. The return address made my blood run cold. Johnson & Associates law firm. Inside was a legal notice that made me sit down hard on my tiny couch. My parents were suing me for breach of contract and demanding immediate repayment of the car loan, all $13,500 of it. The letter explained that as co-signers, they had the right to demand full payment if they believed the primary borrower was engaging in financially irresponsible behavior that jeopardized their ability to meet loan obligations. My moving out, according to their lawyer, constituted such behavior. They were trying to force me to sell my car after all, and they were willing to destroy my credit and financial future to do it. I picked up my phone with shaking hands and called. The one person I knew could help me fight back. "Jennifer? It's Madison Parker. We need to talk. Now." Jennifer Kim's office felt like a war room as we spread the legal documents across her conference table. The certified letter from my parents. Attorney lay in the center like a declaration of war, surrounded by my financial records, loan documents, and emancipation paperwork. "This is vindictive," Jennifer said bluntly, scanning the lawsuit papers. "They're claiming you're financially irresponsible, but your bank statements show the opposite. You've never missed a payment. You have substantial savings and steady income from multiple sources. Can they actually force me to pay the full loan amount? Legally, it's complicated. As co-signers, they do have certain rights, but they'd have to prove actual financial harm or legitimate risk. Moving out of your parents' house doesn't automatically constitute financial irresponsibility." I slumped in my chair. "So, what do I do?" "We fight it. But Madison, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with me." "Okay. Is there anything about your parents' financial situation that seems off to you? Any inconsistencies in their story about your dad losing his job? I thought about it. What do you mean? Well, they went from demanding you sell your car to cover expenses to filing an expensive lawsuit against you. Lawyers aren't cheap. If they're truly in financial crisis, where did they get the money for legal fees? That was a good point. Really good point. I don't know. I think we need to do some research. Legal proceedings require financial disclosures. If they're claiming they need money urgently enough to sue their own daughter, they'll have to prove their financial hardship. Jennifer assigned one of her paralegals to investigate public records related to my parents' finances. What we discovered 3 days later changed everything. Madison, Jennifer called me at work, excitement evident in her voice. You need to come to my office immediately. We found something. I left work early and drove to Jennifer's office, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. Whatever they'd found, it was big. Sit down, Jennifer said, her expression a mixture of anger and disbelief. Your parents lied to you about everything. She pulled out a stack of documents. Your father wasn't laid off from his job. He quit 2 days before they demanded you sell your car. My mouth fell open. He quit? According to his former employer's HR department, Robert Parker submitted his resignation voluntarily. No layoffs, no department elimination, no company-wide downsizing. But why would he? I stopped as the pieces clicked into place. Oh my God. There's more. We pulled their financial records. They're not in financial crisis. They have over $35,000 in their savings account and zero debt except for their mortgage, which is current. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. They lied. They lied about everything. It gets worse. We found travel bookings in Tyler's name. A 3-week European vacation scheduled for this summer. Paris, Rome, Barcelona. The total cost? $12,000. I stared at the travel confirmations, trying to process what I was seeing. They wanted me to sell my car to pay for Tyler's European vacation? That's exactly what they wanted. They figured if they could convince you it was a family emergency, you'd sacrifice your car, and they could use the money to fund Tyler's trip without touching their own savings. And when I refused to play along, they decided to sue me to force the issue. Correct. Madison, this isn't just manipulation. This is fraud. They made false claims about their financial situation to pressure you into giving them money. I felt rage building inside me like a volcano about to erupt. What can we do? Jennifer smiled grimly. A lot. First, we're going to demolish their lawsuit with this evidence. Second, we're going to file a countersuit for emotional distress and legal fees. Third, she paused dramatically. We're going to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of people Robert and Linda Parker really are. The next morning, I drove to my old high school and found Tyler at his locker before first period. Tyler, we need to talk. Now. He took one. Look at my face and followed me outside without argument. We sat in my car in the parking lot while I showed him the documents Jennifer had discovered. Dad didn't lose his job, I said without preamble. He quit so they could make you think I was abandoning the family in a crisis. Tyler's face went pale as he read through the papers. This can't be right. It's all right there. Bank statements, employment records, and look at this. I showed him the travel bookings. A 3-week European vacation, $12,000. That's why they wanted me to sell my car. Tyler stared at the travel confirmations like they were written in a foreign language. I don't understand. They told me this trip was canceled because of Dad's job situation. They told you it was canceled? Yeah, like 2 weeks ago. They said we couldn't afford it anymore because of the emergency. His voice was getting smaller as the implications sank in. Madison, I swear I didn't know any of this. I believe you, Tyler. But I need you to understand something. This wasn't about family financial crisis. This was about them wanting to use my money for your vacation while keeping their own savings intact. Tyler put his head in his hands. Oh God, they were going to let you lose your car so I could go to Europe? That's exactly what they were going to do. I don't want the stupid vacation. I never even asked for it. They just announced it one day and said it would be good for my cultural education or whatever. I studied my brother's face, seeing genuine distress and confusion. Tyler, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Okay? Did you know they were suing me? They're suing you? His shock seemed genuine. What do you mean suing you? They filed a lawsuit demanding I pay back the entire car loan immediately. $13,500. Tyler's face went from pale to green. They can't do that. Can they do that? They're trying. But here's the thing, Tyler. I'm going to fight back. Hard. And when I'm done, everyone is going to know exactly what Mom and Dad did. What do you mean, everyone? I pulled out my phone and showed him a social media post I'd been drafting. I'm going to tell the truth about the fake job loss, about the European vacation, about the lawsuit, all of it. Tyler read the post, his eyes getting wider with each sentence. Madison, this will ruin them. Dad's reputation, Mom's job, everything. They tried to ruin my life for Tyler's vacation money. Turnabout is fair play. But what about me? I go to school here. My friends will see this. My teachers, my teammates. I looked at my brother and felt a moment of sympathy. He was right. My parents' actions would reflect on him too. Tyler, what do you want me to do? Let them get away with lying and manipulation because it might embarrass you? No, I just... God, Madison, I feel sick. All this time I thought you were being selfish, and it turns out they were trying to steal from you to pay for my trip. A trip you didn't even want. A trip I definitely don't want now. Tyler was quiet for a moment, then looked up at me with determination. Do it. Do what? Post it. Tell everyone the truth. They deserve whatever happens to them. Tyler. No, Madison. What they did was wrong. Really, really wrong. And if I have to deal with some embarrassment at school because my parents are horrible people, then that's what I have to deal with. I felt a surge of respect for my brother. There's something else you should know. I'm probably going to win my lawsuit against them, which means they'll have to pay my legal fees on top of their own. Good. And Tyler, you need to be prepared for the possibility that this European vacation isn't the only lie they've told. If they'll fabricate a job loss to manipulate me, what else might they have lied about? Tyler was quiet for a long moment. Madison, can I ask you something? Sure. When you move out completely, when you're officially emancipated and everything, would it be okay if I still talked to you? Asked you for advice sometimes? Of course. Because I think I want to get emancipated too. Maybe not right away, but eventually. I don't want to be dependent on people who would do something like this. Tyler, emancipation is a big decision. I know. But Madison, you've shown me what independence looks like. Real independence, not just having everything handed to you. I want to earn my own way, make my own decisions, be my own person. I hugged my brother, possibly the first real hug we'd shared since we were small children. I'll help you figure it out, but first I need to finish dealing with Mom and Dad. What's your plan? I smiled, and Tyler later told me it was the most terrifying expression he'd ever seen. I'm going to give them exactly what they've been asking. 4. A family financial crisis. That afternoon, I met with Jennifer to finalize our countersuit strategy. She'd been busy building our case, and the evidence was even more damaging than we'd initially thought. Madison, I've been practicing law for 15 years, and I've never seen a more clear-cut case of financial manipulation and fraud. Your parents are going to regret the day they decided to mess with you. What's our timeline? We file our countersuit tomorrow. The beauty of their lawsuit is that it's opened the door for us to present all of this evidence in court. They'll have to explain their fake job loss, their hidden savings, and their European vacation plans under oath. And the social media campaign? Perfectly legal. Everything you're posting is documented fact. Truth is an absolute defense against any claims they might make. That evening, I sat in my guesthouse apartment, laptop open, crafting the social media posts that would expose my parents' lies to everyone they knew. Friends, neighbors, co-workers, Tyler's classmates and teachers. Everyone would see exactly what Robert and Linda Parker had tried to do to their own daughter. But the social media post was just the opening move. I had something much bigger. Planned. Something that would ensure my parents never again had the financial resources to manipulate and control anyone. See, during my research into their finances, I'd discovered something interesting, something that was about to become very expensive for them. My father had quit his job not just to create a fake crisis, but because he'd been planning to start his own consulting business using their savings as startup capital. He'd already put down deposits on office space, equipment, and marketing materials. But what he didn't know was that I'd learned a lot about business law from my tutoring clients' parents. And I knew that someone who would defraud their own daughter might also be willing to cut corners in other areas. A few phone calls to the right agencies were about to make Robert Parker's new business venture very complicated indeed. The war was escalating, and I was just getting started. The social media post went live at 7 p.m. on a Thursday evening, perfectly timed for maximum visibility. I'd crafted it carefully, sticking to documented facts while letting the story speak for itself. Update on my family situation. Some of you know I recently moved out of my parents' house. What you might not know is why. Last month, my parents told me my father had been laid off and demanded I sell my car to help cover family expenses. When I refused and moved out instead, they sued me for the full amount of my car loan. Today I learned the truth. My father wasn't laid off. He quit his job. My parents have $35,000 in savings and no debt. They wanted me to sell my car to fund my brother's $12,000 European vacation while keeping their own money untouched. I have all the documentation to prove this. Sometimes family isn't about blood. It's about who actually supports your dreams instead of exploiting them. I attached screenshots of the key documents: the employment verification showing Dad's voluntary resignation, the bank statements showing their savings, and the European vacation bookings. Personal information was redacted, but the evidence was clear and damning. Within an hour, the post had 50 comments and 20 shares. Within 3 hours, it had been shared over 200 times across multiple social media platforms. By morning, it was local social media news. The comments were exactly what I'd hoped for. "Oh my God, Madison. I can't believe they would do this. To you! Your parents tried to steal from you for Tyler's vacation? That's insane. I always wondered how Tyler afforded all those expensive trips and equipment. Now I know. His sister was paying for it. Madison, you're amazing for standing up for yourself. Don't let them guilt you into backing down." But the most satisfying comment came from Tyler himself. "Madison is telling the truth. I didn't know about any of this until yesterday, and I'm horrified. The European vacation is canceled permanently. I'm getting a job to start paying my own way. I'm sorry I was part of this without knowing it." Tyler's public support meant everything to me, but it was just the beginning of my strategy. Phase 2 launched at 9 a.m. Friday morning when I made 3 phone calls that would destroy my father's business plans before they even began. The first call was to the California Secretary of State's office. During my research, I'd discovered that Dad had filed incorporation papers for Parker Logistics Consulting LLC, using our old family address. But here's the thing about business filings. They require accurate information, and lying on official documents is fraud. "Hi, I need to report fraudulent information on a business registration," I told the clerk. The person who filed used a residential address they no longer have access to, and they're operating under false pretenses. I provided them with evidence that Dad no longer lived at the address he'd used for the business registration, along with documentation of his fraudulent claims about his employment status. Within hours, Parker Logistics Consulting LLC was under investigation. The second call was to the IRS. Self-employed individuals who lie about their circumstances to avoid proper tax obligations tend to get the government's attention quickly. I provided them with information about Dad's fake job loss claims and his attempts to manipulate financial documents for personal gain. The third call was to Dad's former employer. I explained that Robert Parker was potentially using false claims about being laid off to gain client sympathy for his new consulting business, which could constitute fraud and defamation against their company. By noon, Dad's phone was ringing off the hook with very unpleasant calls from very official agencies, but I wasn't done. Jennifer had taught me something important about legal warfare. When someone attacks you, you don't just defend, you devastate. Our countersuit wasn't just asking for legal fees. We were seeking damages for emotional distress, fraudulent misrepresentation, and intentional interference with my business relationships. The beauty of their lawsuit, Jennifer explained as we reviewed our filing, is that it opened the door for us to examine all of their financial behavior. We can now subpoena their bank records, their communications, their travel bookings, everything. And in court? In court, they'll have to explain under oath why they lied about the job loss, why they sued their own daughter to fund a vacation, and why they thought any of this was appropriate. It's going to be a bloodbath. Friday afternoon brought the first consequences of my social media campaign. Mom called me 17 times. I answered on the 18th call. "Madison, what have you done?" Her voice was shrill with panic. I told the truth. "You've ruined us. Your father's business contacts are calling asking questions. My coworkers are looking at me like I'm some kind of monster. And Tyler's coach wants to meet with us about the family situation. Maybe you should have thought about that before you tried to defraud me." "We didn't defraud anyone. You lied about Dad losing his job. You lied about being in financial crisis. You sued me to force me to pay for Tyler's vacation. In what universe? Is that not fraud? Madison, please, take down the post. We can work this out as a family." "We're not family anymore, Mom. Family doesn't lie and steal from each other. We never stole. You tried to take my car to pay for Tyler's trip while hiding $35,000 in savings. That's theft. The only difference is you wanted me to hand it over voluntarily." Mom was crying now. "What do you want? What will it take for you to stop this? I want you to drop the lawsuit. I want a written apology admitting what you did. And I want you to pay my legal fees. And if we do that, you'll take down the post?" "No. The post stays up. The truth doesn't have an expiration date." I hung up and immediately got a call from Dad. His voice was cold with rage. "Madison, if you don't take down that post and stop interfering with my business, you're going to regret it." "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise. You think you're so smart, but you're still just a 17-year-old girl. I can make your life very difficult." "You already tried that, Dad. How's that working out for you?" "This isn't over." "You're right. It's not. Because Monday morning, your business license investigation begins. Tuesday, the IRS starts auditing your tax filings. Wednesday, your former employer's legal team reviews your defamation liability. Should I continue? The silence on the other end was satisfying. Careful, Dad. I'm recording this call. Threats against a minor don't look good in court." He hung up. Saturday brought a surprise visitor to my guest house. Mrs. Chen appeared at my door with a concerned expression and a bag of takeout food. "Madison, I saw the social media posts. I wanted to check on you and bring you dinner." I invited her in, grateful for the kindness. We sat at my tiny kitchen table while she unpacked containers of my favorite dishes from the restaurant. "Are you okay?" she asked. This must be incredibly difficult. I'm better than okay. I'm free. Mrs. Chen studied my face carefully. You seem different. More settled. I am. For the first time in my life, I'm not walking on eggshells or trying to earn approval from people who were never going to give it. Your parents made a serious mistake. They made several serious mistakes, but the biggest one was thinking I'd stay quiet about it. What happens next? I smiled. Next, they learn that actions have consequences, and that the daughter they tried to control is stronger than they ever imagined. Sunday evening, Tyler called with an update that made my day. Madison, you need to know what's happening here. It's chaos. Tell me everything. Dad's been getting calls all weekend from government agencies. Mom's been stress cleaning the house like a maniac. Their friend group is completely divided. Some people are defending them, but most are horrified. What about you? Are you getting grief at school? Actually, no. It's weird. Most people are supporting you. They're saying you're brave for standing up for yourself. Some kids are even sharing their own stories about unfair family situations. That's actually really good to hear. Madison, there's something else. I overheard Mom and Dad talking last night. They're considering dropping the lawsuit. Good. They should. But they're also talking about trying to get back at you some other way. Something about teaching you a lesson about family loyalty. Let them try. I'm not the same person who let them walk all over her for 17 years. I know. And Madison? I'm proud of you. I should have said that before, but I'm saying it now. You're amazing, and they never deserved you. Monday morning brought the most satisfying phone call of my life. It was Jennifer, and she was practically laughing with excitement. Madison, you're not going to believe this. Your parents' attorney called. They want to settle. Already? Already. Apparently the government investigations you triggered are moving faster than expected. Your father's business is effectively dead before it even launched, and the scrutiny on their finances is making them very nervous. What are they offering? Complete withdrawal of their lawsuit, payment of all your legal fees, and a written statement acknowledging that their claims were unfounded. What do they want in return? For you to agree not to pursue your countersuit for damages. I thought about it. The countersuit could potentially get me money, but it would also drag the conflict out for months. What I really wanted was for them to leave me alone and acknowledge what they'd done wrong. I'll accept, but with one addition. The written statement has to be posted publicly on their social media accounts. Same audience that saw my post gets to see their admission. I'll propose that. Madison, you should know, this is a complete victory. They're capitulating entirely. Good. Maybe next time they'll think twice before trying to exploit someone they underestimate. Tuesday afternoon, the settlement was finalized. Mom and Dad posted identical statements on their Facebook accounts. We owe our daughter Madison a public apology. Last month, we pressured her to sell her car to help with what we claimed was a family financial emergency. In reality, we were not in crisis and wanted the money for other purposes. When Madison refused, we filed a lawsuit against her that was without merit. We are withdrawing the lawsuit and ask for Madison's forgiveness. We are proud of her independence and strength, and we deeply regret our actions. The post received over 300 comments, most of them supportive of me and critical of my parents. Several people shared their own stories of financial manipulation by family members, creating a thread of support for anyone dealing with similar situations. But the real victory came Wednesday evening when I received an unexpected call from Elena Vasquez, my landlord. Madison, I wanted you to know that several families have contacted me asking about you. They've seen your story online and want to hire you for tutoring, college prep consulting, and academic planning. Really? Really? I think your story resonated with a lot of parents who want their children to learn independence and resilience. They see you as exactly the kind of mentor they want for their kids. How many families? 12 so far. And they're willing to pay premium rates for your services. I calculated quickly. 12 new families at premium rates could potentially triple my income. Madison, you've turned a terrible situation into an opportunity. That takes real character. As I hung up the phone, I realized something important. My parents had tried to use my success against me, to punish me for being independent and capable. Instead, they'd accidentally given me the platform to build something even bigger. The girl they'd tried to keep small had become someone who inspired others to stand up for themselves, and I was just getting started. 6 months after my parents' public apology, I was sitting in a conference room I'd never imagined I'd see, the boardroom of Riverside Community College, being interviewed for their Young Entrepreneurs Scholarship Program. The irony wasn't lost on me that the same determination my parents had tried to crush was now opening doors they could never have imagined. "Ms. Parker," said Dr. Sarah Martinez, the program director, "your academic success combined with your business acumen is remarkable. But what's truly impressive is how you transformed a personal crisis into a platform for helping others." She was referring to what had become known locally as the Madison Parker story, not just my family conflict, but what I'd built from it. The tutoring business had exploded beyond anything I'd dreamed possible. I was now working with 47 students across 3 school districts, had hired 2 part-time assistants, and was generating more monthly income than many adults with college degrees. "The scholarship program is competitive," Dr. Martinez continued, "but your application stands out, not just for your academic achievements, but for your maturity and business leadership. Thank you. I've learned that sometimes the worst experiences teach you the most valuable lessons." Indeed, if selected, you'd be able to pursue your business degree while continuing to operate your tutoring service. "We're particularly interested in your proposed expansion into financial literacy education for teenagers." That expansion had been Tyler's idea, actually. He'd approached me 3 months earlier with a proposition that had surprised me. "Madison, I've been thinking about what happened with our parents, and I realized something. I had no idea how money really worked. I never thought about where it came from or what it cost. I just assumed it would always be there." A lot of teenagers think that way. But they shouldn't. And I think you could teach them. You could teach kids like me how to be financially responsible so they don't end up dependent on people who might manipulate them. Tyler had been true to his word about changing his life. He'd gotten a part-time job at a local sporting goods store, opened his own savings account, and was now paying for his own basketball equipment and expenses. The transformation in our relationship had been remarkable. We'd gone from barely tolerating each other to having genuine conversations about goals, responsibility, and independence. "I want to be emancipated too," he'd told me recently. "Not because I hate our parents, but because I want to prove I can take care of myself. Like you did. Tyler, emancipation is a big step. Are you sure you're ready? I'll be 17 next month. I have a job, I'm saving money, and I've been looking at apartments. Plus, living with mom and dad is uncomfortable now." I understood what he meant. According to mutual friends, our parents' marriage had been strained since the lawsuit scandal. Dad's business venture had completely collapsed, and he'd struggled to find new employment after the government investigations. Mom had been demoted at the dental office when her boss learned about the family situation and questioned her judgment. The college scholarship interview went well, I told Tyler over coffee that afternoon. We'd started meeting weekly to discuss our goals and plans, a tradition that had strengthened our relationship in ways I'd never expected. "That's awesome. When will you know?" "Next week. But Tyler, whether I get it or not, I've been thinking about something bigger." "Bigger how?" "I want to start a nonprofit. Something that helps teenagers in situations like ours. Kids who are being financially manipulated or controlled by their families." Tyler's eyes lit up. "Like a resource center?" "Exactly. Legal advice, financial education, emancipation support, career counseling. Everything I wish I'd had access to when I was struggling." "Madison, that's incredible. How would you fund it?" That's where the tutoring business comes in. I'm making enough now to support myself comfortably, pay for college, and still have money left over. I could use the surplus to seed a nonprofit. What would you call it? I smiled. The Independent Future Foundation, because every teenager deserves the chance to build their own future, regardless of their family situation. The following week brought two pieces of life-changing news. First, I received the scholarship, a full ride to Riverside Community College, with the option to transfer to a 4-year university. Second, Mrs. Rodriguez called with an opportunity that would accelerate my nonprofit plans. Madison, I've been telling my colleagues about your story and your business success. There's someone who wants to meet you, David Chen, no relation to Mrs. Chen from the restaurant. He's a venture capitalist who specializes in social impact investing. The meeting was arranged for the following Saturday at a coffee shop downtown. David Chen turned out to be a soft-spoken man in his 50s who listened intently as I explained my nonprofit concept. Ms. Parker, your story is compelling, but what really interests me is your business model. You've proven you can generate revenue while helping people. That's exactly the kind of sustainable social enterprise I invest in. You'd be willing to invest in a nonprofit? I'd be willing to invest in you. What if, instead of a traditional nonprofit, you created a social enterprise? A for-profit company that provides services to teenagers and families while also generating revenue through education and consulting? He outlined a model where I could expand my tutoring business into a comprehensive youth development company, offering everything from academic support to financial literacy training to emancipation counseling. The beauty of this approach, he explained, is that you can help people while building wealth. Success doesn't have to be selfless to be meaningful. How much investment are we talking about? For the right business plan, I'd be prepared to offer $150,000 in startup funding. I nearly choked on my coffee. Did you say $150,000? I did. Madison, you've demonstrated something rare. The ability to turn adversity into opportunity, to build systems that help others while helping yourself. That's the foundation of great entrepreneurship. That evening, I called Tyler with the news. His reaction was pure excitement. Madison, this is insane. You're going to be a real entrepreneur. We're going to be entrepreneurs. I want you to be part of this, Tyler. You understand the problem from a different perspective than I do. Your insights could be invaluable. Are you serious? Dead serious. You'd have to finish high school first, and you'd need to prove you can handle the responsibility. But yes, I want you as my business partner. Tyler was quiet for a moment. Madison, 6 months ago I thought you were just my weird overachiever. Sister, now you're offering to make me a business partner in a company that could help thousands of kids. People change. Situations change. You've proven you're capable of growth and responsibility. What about our parents? Won't they try to interfere or claim they deserve credit for our success? That was a conversation I'd been dreading, but knew was inevitable. Tyler, they don't get to claim credit for success they tried to sabotage. But we also can't let fear of their reaction control our decisions. Have you talked to them at all since the settlement? No. And I don't plan to unless they apologize sincerely and demonstrate genuine change. What would that look like? Acknowledgement of what they did, wrong without excuses or justifications. Taking responsibility for the damage they caused, and proof that they understand why their behavior was harmful. Do you think that'll ever happen? Honestly? I doubt it. But Tyler, we can't wait for other people to change before we build our own lives. The business plan took 6 weeks to develop, with help from my college business professors and mentors from the local entrepreneur community. The result was a comprehensive strategy for Parker Youth Development Solutions, a company that would provide academic tutoring, financial education, life skills training, and transition support for teenagers seeking independence. David Chen approved the funding after reviewing our proposal. Madison, this is one of the most well-researched and thoughtful business plans I've seen from someone your age. You're going to change a lot of lives with this. The company officially launched 4 months later with a ribbon-cutting ceremony, attended by local officials, community leaders, and dozens of teenagers and families we'd already begun helping. The mayor proclaimed it Young Entrepreneur Day in honor of our launch. Tyler, now 17 and officially emancipated, had proven himself as both a business partner and a young man I was genuinely proud to call my brother. His financial literacy workshops were particularly popular. Teenagers responded well to his honest stories about learning to manage money and independence. A year ago, he told one group of students, I thought money just appeared when you needed it. I never thought about budgeting, saving, or earning. I let my parents make all the financial decisions, which meant I had no power and no voice. Don't make that mistake. Learn about money now, while you have time to build good habits. 6 months after our business launch, an unexpected visitor appeared at our office. Mom stood in the waiting area, looking nervous and older than I remembered. Madison, could I speak with you privately? I led her to my office, curious but guarded. She sat across from my desk, taking in the professional space, the awards on the walls, the evidence of everything I'd built. This is impressive, she said quietly. You've really created something special here. Thank you. Madison, I owe you an apology. A real one, not the legal settlement version. I waited. What we did to you was wrong. Not just legally wrong, but morally wrong. We took advantage of your love for the family and your willingness to work hard. We treated you like a resource instead of a daughter. Why are you telling me this now? Because I've been watching from a distance. I've seen what you and Tyler have built, how you've helped other families avoid the mistakes we made. I've realized that everything we were trying to force you to give up, you've created on your own, but bigger and better. Mom paused, wiping her eyes. Your father and I have been in counseling, trying to understand how we became the kind of people who would sue our own daughter for vacation money. And what did you learn? That we were scared. Scared of losing control, scared of you becoming so successful that you wouldn't need us anymore. Instead of being proud of your independence, we saw it as a threat. It was never a threat. I just wanted to be respected and supported. I know that now. Madison, I'm not asking for forgiveness or trying to repair our relationship. I just wanted you to know that we recognize what we did, we're ashamed of it, and we're proud of who you've become despite our failures. Mom stood up to leave, then turned back. Tyler told me about the nonprofit component of your business, that you're helping kids who are in situations like yours was. Like ours was, I corrected gently. Tyler was as much a victim of the dysfunction as I was, just in a different way. You're right. Madison, if there's ever anything your father and I can do to support your work, testimonials about the importance of financial responsibility, sharing our story as a cautionary tale, anything, we'd be honored to help. After she left, I sat in my office thinking about forgiveness, growth, and the difference between justice and revenge. I'd gotten justice. My parents had faced consequences for their actions, admitted their wrongdoing, and left me free to build my own life. But I'd also gotten something better than revenge. I'd turned their attempt to diminish me into a platform for helping others. That evening, Tyler and I were reviewing client files when he asked, "Do you think you'll ever have a relationship with Mom and Dad again?" Maybe someday, if they continue growing and taking responsibility for their actions. But Tyler, the relationship we have now is built on something they never gave us. What's that? Mutual respect, equal partnership, trust that we both want the best for each other. It's weird, isn't it? We're closer now than we ever were when we lived in the same house. That's because now we choose to be family. Before, we were just stuck with each other. 1 year after launching Parker Youth Development Solutions, we'd helped over 200 teenagers develop financial independence skills, supported 15 emancipation cases, and generated enough revenue to establish a scholarship fund for young entrepreneurs. Tyler had graduated high school early and was managing our financial literacy program while taking business classes at the community college. The biggest validation came from an unexpected source, a letter from the California State Assembly recognizing our work and inviting me to testify before a committee studying family financial dynamics and youth independence. Ms. Parker, the committee chair said during my testimony, your story illustrates both the problem of family financial manipulation and the potential for young people to overcome these challenges when given proper support and resources. Thank you, Senator. What I'd like the committee to understand is that my situation wasn't unique. Thousands of teenagers are being controlled through financial manipulation, denied opportunities because they threaten family power dynamics, or forced to choose between independence and family relationships. What policy changes would you recommend? First, better legal protections for teenagers seeking emancipation when families are engaging in financial manipulation. Second, mandatory financial literacy education in high schools. Third, support programs for young people transitioning to independence. And you believe these changes would prevent situations like yours? I believe these changes would give young people options. Options I had to create for myself through trial and error, legal battles, and sheer stubbornness. The hearing was broadcast statewide and later went viral on social media. The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of teenagers reached out sharing their own stories of family financial manipulation, and dozens of adults offered to volunteer or donate to support our programs. But the most meaningful response came from someone unexpected. Dad. He called me the evening after the hearing aired. Madison, I watched your testimony today. Did you? You were articulate, professional, and compassionate. Even when describing what we did to you, you focused on solutions rather than blame. That's because blame doesn't help anyone move forward. Madison, I know I don't have the right to ask this, but would you be willing to meet with me? I have something I want to discuss. We met at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown where we'd never been together as a family. Dad looked older, more subdued than I remembered. Madison, I've been sober for 8 months. I blinked in surprise. Sober? I didn't realize it at the time, but I was drinking more than I should have been. It affected my judgment, my priorities, my ability to see how my actions were hurting you and Tyler. Dad, please let me finish. Being sober doesn't excuse what I did, but it's helped me understand it. I was jealous of your success, threatened by your independence, and instead of being proud, I tried to tear you down. He pulled out an envelope. I wanted to give you this. Inside was a check for $15,000 and a letter. The check was made out to Parker Youth Development Solutions, and the letter was a detailed apology taking full responsibility for his actions and expressing support for my work. Dad, this is unexpected. It's the money from Tyler's canceled European vacation, plus interest. It should have gone to you from the beginning. I can't take this. You're not taking it. I'm donating it to your organization so you can help other kids avoid having parents like I was. We sat in silence for several minutes. Finally, Dad spoke again. Madison, I know we may never have a normal father-daughter relationship, but I want you to know that I'm proud of you. Not just for your success, but for your character. You turned our worst behavior into something that helps people. Thank you. That means more than you know. Tyler told me you're both considering expanding to other cities. We are. The demand is incredible. We're looking at Sacramento and San Diego first. If you ever need a cautionary tale speaker, someone to explain to parents how not to handle their children's success, I'd be willing to share our story. I studied my father, seeing someone genuinely changed, genuinely remorseful. Dad, maybe we could start with coffee once a month. No pressure, no expectations. Just seeing if we can build something new. I'd like that. 2 years later, Parker. Youth Development Solutions operates in 5 California cities and has helped over 1,000 teenagers develop independent skills. Tyler completed his business degree and now runs our expansion operations. I graduated summa cum laude with my bachelor's degree and was accepted to Stanford's MBA program. More importantly, Tyler and I have built the kind of family relationship I never thought possible, one based on mutual respect, shared goals, and genuine care for each other's well-being. My parents and I meet monthly for coffee. The relationship is different. Now, more honest, more careful, built on acknowledgement of past harm and commitment to better behavior. They've become advocates for our work, sharing their story at parent education workshops as an example of how financial manipulation damages families. But the real victory isn't the business success or the reconciliation with my parents. It's the letter I received last month from a girl named Sarah in San Diego. Ms. Parker, 6 months ago, my parents tried to force me to quit my job and give them my college savings for my brother's wedding. I found your story online and realized I had options. Today I moved into my own apartment, and I start community college next month with my savings intact. Thank you for showing me that I didn't have to choose between independence and dignity. That letter sits framed on my desk, next to a photo of Tyler and me at our business expansion announcement. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying the people who hurt you, it's building something so powerful, so helpful, so meaningful, that their attempts to diminish you become the foundation for elevating others. They tried to take my car to fund my brother's vacation. Instead, they taught me to build an empire that helps kids take control of their own futures. And honestly, I wouldn't change a thing. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.